Hey everyone, this video is going over the latest updates for the AR4 robot. This will be for the Mark III version. I'll be going over the new gear motors for joint 6. We have some new limit switches for joints 4 and 6, and then I have some software and functionality updates to go over. If this is the first time you've seen the AR4 robot, this is a desktop 6 DOF robot arm that anyone can build themselves. The aluminum parts, gear motors, and electronics are all available in a kit. And then you use your own 3D printer to make the covers and spacers in whatever color you like. The software manuals and all the files are all free, and I've been continuously developing the software for the past few years and have been adding functionality for all types of movements, reading G-code files, using a USB webcam for vision, for finding parts, and just a number of other functionalities. In this update, I've upgraded the J6 motor to be the latest EG series gearbox from Stepper Online. In the previous update, all the other motors had been upgraded, and this is the final gear motor on the robot to be updated to the higher precision gearbox. This gearbox is about 3 millimeters larger in diameter and 10 millimeters taller, and it has a higher tolerance and backlash spec on it. The J6 housing, this is a new machine part made to fit the new gear motor. And then the J6 gripper mount now has an 8 millimeter keyed shaft, and it's made to fit the MHF 8D1 pneumatic gripper and servo gripper that you can see in chapters 3 and 4 of the build manual. And then of course you can attach any other gripper tool holder that you need to this gripper mount. The robot is designed to self-calibrate. There are limit switches on each axis, and you can see here each axis drives to its axis limit switch and then recalibrates the position, and then the robot moves back to the home position. There's also an option to split up the order in which all the axes calibrate. There's 2 stages, and this is useful if you have like a large gripper on the robot. You need axis 4, 5, and 6 to calibrate separately so that that gripper doesn't hit anything. This clip here shows a 2-stage calibration where axis 4, 5, and 6 are being calibrated last. I've also updated the limit switches on joints 4 and 6 so that the switch contact is a cam, and that allows the joint to rotate a full 360. This gives those joints a full 360 degrees of rotation, and it eliminates a few of the issues on those joints with the old switches. And then you can see here on the config setting tab in the software, this set of checkboxes right here is for stage 1 of the calibration, and this set of checkboxes here is for stage 2. So I have it set that stage 1 will calibrate joints 1, 2, and 3, and stage 2 will do 4, 5, and 6. And then another update on this version is that I've added the external axes, axis 7, 8, and 9. So if you had a travel track or a turntable or some other axis that the robot is controlling, you can also now include its calibration. So if I checked joint 7 for a travel track, for example, to be in stage 1, it'll now calibrate the track during that portion of the calibration procedure, and then you just hit the auto calibrate button to start the procedure. So the other main thing I've updated is the if-then functionality in the software. You can see here I'm on the main controls tab, and I've added this line here, this section on the if-then functionality, so it makes it a little more streamlined and easier to use. I've got an overlay here of the robot so you can see a little video screen of what the robot is doing. This if-then functionality allows the robot to react based to different inputs, so we can react to an actual physical input on our board. We can react to if a register value changes, or we can react to if an external comm device sends a signal. And then from there we can choose what those inputs are and then decide if we want to call a program or jump to another section of the program. So we'll start out with a quick example showing an input. You can see here I've got our gripper control enclosure here. This has the solenoid valve, the relay, and an Arduino Nano board. And the software is connected to this Nano board and monitoring all of its inputs and outputs. And you can see here I have a switch wired from the ground terminal over to input number 2, so that when I press the switch, it's going to force that input down to 0. The Arduino boards are very susceptible to floating voltage, so you either need to wire them to ground so that when you press the switch it gives it a ground signal, or you need to wire it with a 3-way switch, but I have a tutorial on that on the tutorials page on the website. So to start out with, let's set this to be input 2, which we have our switch wired to, so I'll put a 2 right there, and then if that switch is pressed it'll connect it to ground, so that'll be a 0. in that field there. And then let's say that when that happens, we want to call a program. So let's say we wanted to call the home program. So I'll just put home in that field there. Now over here I've got a little test program set up. So if I hit play on this, it just has the robot moving up and down. So maybe this represents the robot doing some activity, picking and placing or something like that. So let's say when that button is pressed, I want the robot to stop what it's doing and go home. So I'll just put the cursor right here and I'll hit insert if command. And so now when I hit play, the robot will move up and down, and then every time it passes through this if-then statement, it will evaluate whether or not that button is pressed. So you can see if I press and hold down the button, when it gets to that line of code, it's going to go to the home program and run the robot home. So you can see it ends here in the home program, but let's say that I wanted it to return back to what it was doing after it goes home. I can come right here and put in a return on this, and now let's reload our test program and start it again. And if we hit play on it, it will go back and continue doing those two moves that represent the robot doing some kind of work. And then when I press and hold the button, it's going to go to the home program. It'll run the robot home, but then when it hits the return, it'll come back to where it came from and then keep doing those movements again and return to what it was doing. So now let's say instead of calling another program, we wanted it to jump to a different line of code. So we'll do a real quick example on that. So I'm just going to come here and delete that line that we put in, and then I'm going to come down here below tab 1 and we'll just put in some hashtags for a comment. So we'll just insert a comment to give us a little bit of space, and then down here let's create a new tab to jump to. We'll call that tab number 2, and we'll hit create tab. So now I have a new tab to jump to. So let's say instead of calling a program, we wanted to jump to tab, and we wanted to jump to tab number 2. And so now we can come back up here, insert that command again, and now it says if input 2 is 0, it'll jump to tab 2. So now when we press play on the program, it's going to continue running those two moves like before, but now when I press and hold the button, when it gets to that line, it's going to jump down to tab 2, as you saw there, and stop at the end of the program, so you could have some more code down here to do something different. Okay, so now let's do an example using the if-then functionality, but monitoring a register, making the robot react to a register value. So we'll go back to our example program here. I'm going to go ahead and delete that line that we put in, and then I'll delete these other lines here that we put in. So now we're kind of back to our original example program. So if we're dealing with registers, we can use registers for a lot of things, and in this example we use it for counting number of cycles. So I'm going to take, and let's say register 1. We want register 1 to equal 0, and I'm going to put that at the very beginning of our program above the tab that we're jumping to, so that initializes our register. So when we first start the program, it's always going to set it to 0. And then let's say every time it completes its cycle of movements, whatever action it's performing there, we want it to count, and we want the register to increase. So then we'll just take this field, instead of making equal to 0, we'll do a ++1, and that will make it increment each time. So we'll put that in our code. So now when I come here to the top and I press play, it's going to start doing these two movements, and every time it runs through this, it's going to increment the register for us. So if we go to our registers tab and we look at register 1 up here, you can see how it's incrementing every single time the robot goes through a cycle. So it's basically counting cycles for us there. So we'll go back to the main tab and I'll hit stop. And so now what we want to do is we want to make it so that if register 1, let's say that it does 5 cycles, when it gets to 5, that then we want it to call program home. So we want it to go home after doing something 5 times. And so I will put that right here under tab number 1, and we'll insert that command there. So now if we step through this program, I'll hit forward, and I've just executed that row, register 1 equals 0. So we go back to our registers, we can see it zeroed it. And so now when we hit play, it's going to run through this 5 times, and after the 5th time it should go back home. And so there, after the 5th cycle, it jumped to the home program. And that will work the same way If you wanted to call a program or jump to tab, it's basically just looking at that register, and when that register equals the value that you set it to, it'll perform or jump to a tab or go home. So now let's do an example reading a COM port device as an input, so we can basically get a signal from any type of a device that communicates over a COM port. In this case, I'm using this barcode scanner. I got this on Amazon. I think I paid $36 for it. It's a Terra brand device, and almost all of these barcode scanners can function as in keyboard mode or in USB COM mode. So if I open up the manual here to page 8, you can see there's a code here that I can scan, and that will put the device into USB COM mode. So now when I take the dongle from that device and plug it into my computer, it's when I open up my device manager, I can see that under my COM ports that I have a new COM port that just popped up, which is COM6, so I know that this device is on COM6. So now that we have the device configured and plugged into the computer, to test it, you can go to the Config Setting tab, and there's a section here for testing the COM device. So this particular device is on COM port 6, and then I have this product box here that has a 9-digit product code, so I know that I'm looking to read 9 characters on this. So then I can press the Test COM device button, and then when I scan the code, you can see that it puts the value in here. So we've got a 114-20289 as our product code here. So now we can accurately read in barcodes. So now to put this into a program, we'll go back to our main controls tab. And the first thing we need to do in our program at the top of the program is we want to use the functionality to read from that COM device. So in here we're going to put in COM6, and we're going to put in the 9 characters that we're looking for, and then we'll enter that into the code. So when it hits this line of code, it's going to read the value and bring it into memory, and it will place it down here in the manual program entry field, and it will also put it back on the same field in the test field that you saw earlier. The next thing we would want to do is decide what we want to do with a part if that code is scanned. So I'm going to come down here below the moves here, and we're going to select if COM device, and then we're going to say if COM device 6 is equal to, and I'm going to come grab this value, and I'll do Control-C to copy it, and come back here and do a Control-V and paste that code in there. You don't see all the characters, it's shortened up a little bit there, and then we'll call a program. So we need to create a couple of different programs maybe. So let's create a new program, and I'm just going to call it bin 1, so that maybe we want to place a product in bin 1. So now I've got a new program called bin 1, and then maybe we'll create another program called bin 2. So now we have a program called bin 2. Okay, so I brought the video back in for the robot so we can see what the robot is doing. Now let's say that in our bin 2 program, let's say that the bin 2 is over on the right side. So let's teach a position there, and then let's load up our bin 1 program again. And let's say our bin 1 is over on the left side. So we'll jog the robot over here, and then let's teach a position there. And then we'll reload our test program so we can test this out. So now let's come over here to our if-then statement, and we're going to put in, let's do bin number 2 if we could have the correct product code. And so I'm going to come here below my moves, and I'm going to insert that. And now just to illustrate the test, let's put in a dummy number here. Let's say we have another product that's 288 instead of 289. And if that's the case, let's put it in bin 1. So I'm going to come back up here, move my cursor up, and I'm going to put that command into it. So now if we press play on the program, it's going to come to that line of code to read the COM port. We'll scan our product. It'll run those 2 moves. And then you can see when it got to the appropriate statement for product code 0289, it picked the bin 2 program, and the robot moved over to the right. So you could use this this COM device input, and then use that also for jumping to another tab in the program, and that will work the same way as the previous examples. So that's all the updates I have for the Mark III. Please let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.